in Stoic philosophy, there's this idea of acquiescence, the art of accepting what we can't change. And the Stoics correctly taught that so much of life is out of our control. And rather than letting that be a cause of frustration or, for me, anxiety, it's an invitation to focus on what is within our control, which are three things: our actions, our responses, and our choices. What's so interesting and counterintuitive for me, that letting go brings freedom. When I started this podcast, for those that don't know my story, and most of my listeners do, I left a lucrative, logical career. It was safe for me. And I jumped out of it for my mental health. And I jumped into this show, and this show is about mental health. Yes, there's through lines of addiction, substance use, whatnot, but mental health is what this show is about. The heart behind this show is to help people, including myself in my own journey. But because of some fear underneath it, and because of my own tendencies and habits, it quickly turned into, how do I grow this thing? And the irony was, I wound up feeling just as stressed, just in a different way, starting a podcast. I'm checking metrics and I'm reaching out to guests, and I've started worrying about it. And I just realized, like, I did this to let go of controlling my career, to let go of the need for more and more money, higher salaries, equity. I wanted to let go of all that. So I jumped into a podcast after taking some break. But then before I knew it, because I still wasn't focusing on this idea of acquiescence, the art of acquiescence, of letting go, the podcast just became the next thing that I was stressed about. And I let go of this podcast having some tangible outcome. And I just started saying, you know what topics do I think are important, and what people are just good people to come on the show to talk about it. And an ease came over me. And that's what I've been doing. And what's incredible, Spotify sent me this congratulatory message, and this show you're listening to, Sober Strength, as of this morning, was ranked 7th in the country in the health and fitness category, and 170th in the world across all categories. And just to put that into perspective for you, there's estimates between 3 and 4 million podcasts in the world. And this little show that you're listening to, that's less than a year old, actually our birthday will be in 10 days, will be a year old, Veterans Day. This little show here is 170th out of 3 million or so. And my point in saying that is not to brag or anything. It's that if you would have looked at the ranking of this show, say 6 months ago, when I was just attacking it and approaching it like a business and just worried about it, I mean, I was probably 2,987,000. And when I let go and truly authentically let go and just started talking about important topics with good people on the show, I think that's really where the audience kind of connected with me, and that's where we are. It's November 2nd when I'm publishing this episode. We are, by the end of next week, we'll have a new president, whether that's Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. And many people will not have the president that they hoped and maybe even prayed for. And think about how important it is to let go of that, to control that, the fear of that, to let go of what it means for the next 4 years. If you have a commander-in-chief who maybe isn't aligned with you morally, spiritually, policy-wise, economically, how do we let go? So I thought it was important to talk about this idea of letting go, because in my short-ish life, I found that when I hold so tightly to something, my life, it just suffers, and I wind up never getting what I truly want. And life has this beautiful way of showing you that if you just let go and just let life happen, that's when not only do you enjoy life in the process, but most times you'll get what you want, or at least what you need, right? So just wanted to encourage everybody to just let go. For me, one of the things that I try to control the most is how I act, what I say, what I do, why I do it, I'm so focused on, health, fitness, nutrition, growing, that like I'm always trying to be perfect. But if you can just, first off, accept that you are imperfect, almost like create a mantra for yourself, and expect imperfections, and not just in yourself, but in other people, and don't judge yourself so harshly and others so critically when you're faced with imperfection, whether it's your own or theirs. And you'll just have a lightness about yourself, and you'll have an ease in which you'll kind of flow through life. What happens is, if we're trying to desperately control everything in our lives and our outcomes of our lives and in others, we can stress and burn out. And that's when we're vulnerable to turn towards substances and substance use to help cope. Things like alcohol, things like social media, things like food, right? I promise you, if you let go of control, you'll grow. Let go to grow. So with that, I hope that this weekend and next week are peaceful times. And thank you for joining the Sober Strength Show. See you on the other side.
All right, everybody, that's the show, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Sober Strength podcast and spending some time with us today. We've got a favor to ask. If you enjoyed the show, would you please consider subscribing to the show and even leaving a rating and review? That simple act drastically helps us reach more people in our mission to help them live better, longer, healthier lives. You can also follow us, if you'd like, on Instagram and YouTube for regular tips and motivation around mental health, addiction, and so much more. Know that your support fuels our brand and is greatly appreciated. So until next time, stay strong and live deep.